I, Ricardo Marcelo Fonseca, Dean of the Federal University of Paraná, grant to Carlo Vezzoli the title of Doctor Honoris Causa of the Federal University of Paraná, granted by him by the prestigious University Council in accordance with its statute and general regulations. This honor is given to people who are distinguished by the relevant services to the university in the cultural cause of the country and to humanity. Professor Carlo Vezzoli receives the title of Doctor Honoris Causa of University of Paraná. With this, we would like to invite the Doctor Honoris Causa of the Federal University of Paraná, Professor Carlo Vezzoli, to speak.
Señoras y señores, ladies and gentlemen, indeed, this is really a particular day for me. In my professional life, this is indeed a day in which I receive the greatest honor I may have ever imagined. And indeed, even because of this, you may feel by my voice, I'm not only extremely excited by this title, but I'm full of emotion. It's like I have some firework in my stomach of emotion, but still I would like to thanks for this. When working throughout some decades in research and education, I never thought that a day like this may have happened, and I neither did what I did to have this kind of grant. But then when this is coming, it's kind of a shock. You are really here, and everything is condensed, and it's coming like really a great gratitude. So together with the emotion, which is part of human beings, so I'm happy even to be emotional together with you, I really want to express my gratitude to some person. And so I'm gonna, in this case, yes, I don't have a speech, but I'm afraid to forget someone. Hopefully I have a light enough, yes. So, first of all, I thank from the Federal University of Paraná, Professor Ricardo Marcelo Fonseca, the magnificent Dean of that university. Professor Garciela Ines Bolzón de Muniz, the Excellency Vice Dean. Professor Rejane Ribeiro, Director of Art, Communication and Design Sector. Professor Giesa Caroline Prado, the Head of the Design Department. Professor André Duarte, the Director of the International Agency, that is actually translating this into my presentation into English, so I thank you even for this. And last but not least, my colleague, Professor Aguinaldo dos Santos, Doyen of the Design Department and Head of the Nucleo on Design for Sustainability. As well, from my own university, the Politecnico di Milano, I thank Professor Luisa Collina, the magnificent Dean of the School of Design. I thank Professor Alessandro Deserti, the head of the design department. And I thank Professor Emeritus Ezio Manzini, that many years ago asked me to start to work at Politecnico di Milano, introducing to me into the research area of design for sustainability. And with the thanks to him, to Ezio, I want to thank as well the very long list of persons with whom I have been collaborating during this year, either at the Politecnico and in the network that we have created of university in Italy. I then want to thank the colleague and friend, Professor Maria Cecilia Lo Schiavo from the University of São Paulo, being the first Brazilian colleague inviting me in Brazil, so opening to me the door of Brazil, so with the possibility then to get to know so many persons and so many professors and so many colleagues, PhD, with whom I've been working there. And within the thanks to her, I really want to thank as well it would be really a very long list. I was trying to put it, but there were more than 100 Brazilian colleagues that I met, to whom I've been working with, and actually with many of them, if not with all of them, I even build a good and strong friendship. I would like to thank as well Mrs. Eleonora Camargo de Mendoza and all the persons
Também quero agradecer
of the
a
Federal
Eleonora
University
Camargo
of
de
Paraná
Mendonça,
that
do
supported
Cerimonial
her in the
da
organization of the
Universidade
event.
Federal do Paraná.
As well, I would like to thank Mrs. Eleonora De Marchi and
Também gostaria
Mrs.
de
Luisa
agradecer
Lunaldi and all
Leonardo
the
De
persons
Marchi.
of the Politecnico di Milano that supported them in the organization of this event
todas as pessoas
from this
organizando
part
este evento.
of the ocean. Let me thank as well Dr. Rosa
gostaria
Toninelli,
de agradecer
the design department manager of Politecnico di Milano, together with Dr. Ruben Carregari and Dr. Greta Crespi, and all the persons of the administration now and in the past for their support in all the projects that I've been coordinating, sometimes some crazy project like the project that colleague and Professor Aguinaldo dos Santos mentioned before with 36 partners. So without them, I don't know whether this title would have been ever here. Last but not least, and this is a little bit different, my thanks to my best friend, my sister Anna, sorry, and my beloved daughter, Giada and Viola. Sorry. Okay. Said this, now I can go get back after the thanks to the lecture. So I'm going to present to you something that indeed is related to a project that we have been doing, and Professor Aguinaldo was mentioning before, with so many universities around the world. And the title of the presentation is Designing Sustainability for All. And what you will find in this presentation is linked even to this incredible research taking so many different perspective on sustainability all together, anyhow, all the time trying to figure out the common element without indeed on the other side avoiding the difference, instead appreciating those because they are at the same time learning moment. I will speak about sustainable development, not just because I'm going to tell you what is sustainable development, but just to share with you and to be sure that you are aware about the urgency of change and the dimension of change of the system discontinuity. Then we will say something about the role of design. We are designers, so it is now clear that there is a call for action for the designer, and this call for action is really fundamental. So I will introduce sustainable product service system and distributed economy as offer model in which a system discontinuity towards sustainability seems to be very promising in relation to the role, the key role that the university has to play, as we are discussing, of course, with Professor Luisa Collina and Professor Alessandro Deserti, in a key role within the society, because we are making research. We are not only making research, we are diffusing research through consultancy with company and through the building of a new generation of designers that are definitely needed. So sustainable development. I don't want to make a long story, but what about the international commitment? Here, I like to tell you that it was around 24, 25 years ago that a working group of the United Nations came out with the so-called Our Common Future, even known as the Brundtland Report. Indeed, Gro Harlem Brundtland, that was a former Prime Minister of Norway, was called by the United Nations to chair between 83 and 87, 1983, 1987, the World Commission on Environment and Development. And that was the moment in which sustainable development for the first time appeared. So indeed, in that document, we can read for the first time the definition of sustainable development, like the development that meets the need of the present generation without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their own needs, in the respect of the environment, in the respect of economic prosperity, and in respect of social equity. But it was then, and this is a pleasure when speaking to the Brazilian colleague, it was in 1992 at the UN conference Environment and Development in Rio de Janeiro that the sustainable development get to the arena. Before it was in a document, but then there it was discussed, and indeed 178 United Nations member states ratified the so-called Agenda 21, so speaking and taking sustainable development into an implementation plan. And of course, after that there has been several summit, meeting, conferences, and again, all the time listening what the scientists discover, and what actually they discovered was that human being was really hurting this earth in a very irreversible way. So it was really threatening. But let's go to nowadays. So nowadays we have a new agenda. It's called the 2030, and I believe that you all know about this. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, with the very known, I hope, very known 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So this is actually indeed the agenda and the goal with which we have to deal right now, because they are based on the scientific knowledge that we are that we have achieved and that the scientists gave to us. Anyhow, they are linked to the three dimensions of sustainability: the environmental protection, the social equity inclusion, and the economic prosperity. Then, it was, and we all know about that, the end of 2019, and COVID-19 start to diffuse, and then it became a global pandemic crisis. And this crisis indeed, as we all know, make increase poverty and inequality all around the world. And it is even known, and here I'm using the word of the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, everything we are doing after and during the COVID must be with a strong focus on building an inclusive, equal, and sustainable economy, more resilient to face the pandemic, as well as climate change and all the other sustainable development goals. But then, you know, sustainable development, we have agreement. And what about moving from international agreement to action? Well, here the story is not that nice. And here, you know, I just took one report from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which is one of the biggest group of researchers ever built around the world, focusing on one issue. And this new report, which is an update of a previous report, has been issued, you see, in 2021 in August. And it's called Climate Change, the Physical Science Basis. And I have abstracted something. Human activity has caused our planet climates to warm at a rate faster than anything people have experienced in at least 2,000 years. So it is, there is no discussion anymore that the humankind is causing climate change. But then someone is saying climate change will happen in a while, will be a problem of the future. No, even inside that, but I believe that even by your experience, you start to get to know about this. The climate change is a problem that is happening now through drought, fire, water, extreme heat, and many other problems that we are facing. Okay, this is today, but there is even tomorrow. And again here, you know, I had the chance to download a report from the UN Climate Agency. You see, it's neither 1 week ago that this report, so I didn't have the time to read it all. But I abstract something, and we can read it together. While greenhouse gases emissions are being reduced over time, the nation must urgently redouble the climate efforts if they are to prevent disastrous global heating in the future. And again, in this report that was even taken to the attention, to a wider attention again by Gutierrez, the world is on a catastrophic pathway. This is Gutierrez saying, so it's not an activist on the environment, okay? To a 2.7 degrees of heating by the end of the century, okay? What is this 2.7? It's a catastrophic. We have to be aware about this, okay? And then we can say, okay, this is global warming. Is just global warming the issue? No, indeed. We have lots of other problems. You know how many people are dying every year in the world in a premature way because of air pollution? Well, the number is incredible. 7 million people. 7 million people, both because of outdoor pollution and indoor pollution. Okay? Indoor pollution is basically, as you may see by the image, because in low-income context, people are still cooking with wood and fire, and the fire is one of the most, it's called a death killer. It's killing more than malaria. It's killing more than malaria. The numbers are incredible. And for me, these are numbers of a world war. Okay? But this is something that we are provoking. Okay? So we have to do something. And if we move, I don't want to make the story that long, but just to say something about the social dimension of sustainability. You know, that second development goal is telling to reduce, to go towards zero hunger by 2030. We have less than 10 years. And this is a FAO report just recently issued. And what is happening? Okay, since 1990, maybe there has been a slightly decrease of people facing chronic hunger, undernourished, so close to die, okay? But since 2014, this number have rise again. And today, in 2020, people facing hunger are 768 million, 1 people on 10 in the earth. This is not possible. This is not bearable anymore. So if we go back to the Sustainable Development Goal, and we all make an agreement, all the head of the government signed that and whatever, we know that even though the international agreement, institutional, we are going worst. And someone is saying that we are going close to the collapse of the ecosystem. To be honest, the nature doesn't care that much. The nature doesn't collapse. The air will be, it won't be breathable for us. The nature will have its own equilibrium. There will be other species, or maybe nothing, and it will be. But this is something that we don't like. We definitely don't like, okay? So it's, even there we are too much egocentric about that, all right? But as a human being, we are conscious about this. We have the tool, we have the knowledge, and so we have to do something. And we need a radical change. We need a system discontinuity. We need to change the system of production and consumption. And we need to act now. You know, act now is something that I've been listening since a while. So I don't know what more than now we could say. I say urgently now, but maybe some English speaker, mother tongue speaker, could tell me something that is more strong than now. It should be yesterday, but of course we are now. So what about design for sustainability? Here I would like to show a document. It's not a document, it's much more than a document. It's an action plan that has been ratified by the European Union in 2020. It's called the Circular Economy Action Plan. And listen what we read. We are designer. This is at the beginning of the document when we are speaking about product policy framework, you know? Product policy framework. The first chapter is about designing sustainable product. It's speaking about designing, so we are the first. And it is said as well that up to 80% of product environmental impact are determined into the design phase. Well, to be honest, I've been writing, as Aguinaldo said, book even a couple of decades ago together with other colleagues, and we were saying the same things, all right? But indeed, well, it's a little bit more prestigious, this publication. It has a little bit more power than what we can do, even though we will never stop to write book and try to influence even the politician. If we go on into the next page, we can read another thing that is key important, and this is stated by the EU in this action plan, that it is important to favor or intensify product as a service or other model or other business model where the producer keep the ownership of the product that is producing and offering, or the responsibility over its life cycle. So here it is even the EU is saying something about a system discontinuity in the way in which we offer product, in the way in which we produce and consume. And so this is something interesting. Indeed, even this, me together with other colleagues, have been studying this offer model since a while. Again, I'm very happy that I find these things over here. I'm not jealous at all. So, but what about product design for environmental sustainability? Well, it is since the late 90s that a researcher in design has been developing a knowledge base and a know-how on how to design a sustainable, environmentally sustainable product. We have different terminology, life cycle design, eco-design, now we have circular design. Okay, I prefer life cycle design, but that is not the point. Anyhow, it's different approaches are feeding this discipline that now is actually being consolidated. And when we are speaking about this, it is clear now that we have to design product considering all the life cycle stagings and the functional unit. Another thing, sorry, I want to emphasize is that during those years, tools to support designer in the assessment of the environmental impact of the product, like life cycle assessment, and other tools to support the generation of sustainable idea has been developed. And this is very important. Indeed, here I have an example of a chair by Herman Miller that has been designed following life cycle design principle and tools, so it's designed for easy disassembly, for reuse, remanufacturing, to easy recycling, and so on. So extending the life of the product and extending the life of the material. So definitely reducing a lot the environmental impact of that product. So here is a good news, or a piece of good news. Why is this? Because it is available, a consolidated knowledge base and know-how on how to design product with a low environmental impact. There is no alibi anymore. If a designer wants to design, he or she can do that and can do a product with a low environmental impact, no doubt, and reducing a lot the impact of that product. But then there is a question. Are all those products that we design with a low environmental impact economically beneficial, or are they innovation up to the level that I mentioned before? So are they taking system discontinuity in the way in which we produce or not? And this is why I'm going to briefly introduce to you sustainable product service system, offer model, and distributed economy system. Again, it is not new, the story among us as researchers. Since early 2000, PSS, or Sustainable Product Service System cases, has been studied. Here I report one of the first cases studied is that of Xerox. Xerox decided in those years to stop selling, or maybe continue selling even photocopier, but even opening a new business, a new type of business, a new type of offer. So actually they were offering a package deal in which they install the photocopier, retaining the ownership of the photocopier, taking care about the maintenance, taking care about the reparation, taking care about the collection at the end of the life. And why this is interesting? Because as far as the Xerox, or could be another company, retain the ownership of the photocopier and offer all-inclusive the life cycle services of maintenance and so on, they become economically incentivized in designing long-lasting product, in designing product that could be remanufacturable, could be reusable, and product that could be recyclable. Why? Because if they remain the owner of this product, and they are paid per page, because this is the deal, of course, when the photocopier break, who has to pay the buying of new material and the producing of the photocopier and the disposal? Xerox. So why not to design for long lasting? Why not to design for recycling, so to give value to the material inside? And then about the other model, distributed economy, it was since 2005 that this model has been studied and case studied as a promising model for locally based and resilient sustainability. So with a slightly different characteristic here, just to give you an example, very short and very clear, it's like moving from a centralized fossil fuel-based power plant to a home-based solar power mini-grid. Indeed, the last one is with much lower environmental impact, is locally based, and is much more resilient. compared to a big plant. That when anything happens in a big plant, then we have a blackout in a wide region. If anything happens in one of the nodes of a mini grid, the system is more resilient, and we go on. But this is not only related to energy. We can apply, and we have been studying this to the manufacturing. We have big plant producing furniture, but we can produce now furniture with 3D printing and other modalities and so on. But, and this is what came out from the last project that together with the Federal University of Paraná and all these other universities around the world, we have been studying for 4 years the coupling of these two models. Then seems so very interesting. So the coupling of sustainable product service system with distributed economy to come out with win-win, locally based, sustainable and resilient solution for all. And I make an example to be clear. This is off-grid. We are in Tanzania. They are offering to rural people what? A solar home system that include the solar power, the solar panel, the storage, the wire, even the so-called energy-using products, so the light bulbs, the charger for the phone, or other product. Off-grid retain, we are in an SPSS offer mode, retain the ownership of all this hardware, and the customer pay, the rural inhabitant, pay per period, so a daily fee. What happened in this case? They cut the initial investment cost. So a rural inhabitant, a low income, would have the money to buy a solar panel? Not at all. Or some other wiring system for doing that? No. But with this offer model, that becomes, all this stuff, and even a high quality stuff, become accessible. At the same time, being an SPSS offer model, they are interested retaining the ownership in designing long-lasting product, easy to be recycled, high efficiency, and so on. So here we have, after the bad news that I reported to you at the beginning, I want to come with some good news. So I have a second piece of good news. So we know now some promising win-win offer model, namely SPSS and DA and their combination, which are actually promising, as I show, of course, here is just one example, that show to be interesting for environmental protection, social inclusion, and economic prosperity in a sustainable and resilient society that is accessible to all. But this is saying something, okay? Designing a product is something, but when we move up to this level or beyond this, we have to speak about system design for sustainability, so a new role for the designer. Okay, and even here, since 2005, researcher in design has been working on developing a new knowledge base and know-how, so even approaches, method, and tools for system design for sustainability. To be honest, it's not just what I've been speaking about, sustainable product service system and distributed economy. There are other colleagues speaking about design for social innovation, design for systemic design, or design for strategic sustainability transition path, and so on. But we can take them under the umbrella of a system innovation which goes beyond the product level and produce a system discontinuity. And even in this case, when we look at the sustainable product service system applied to distributed economy, we now know, after making research, what a designer should do. So to design an integrated mix of products and services, not only to be able to design new offer, or said in another way, to design innovative stakeholder interaction, and such a stakeholder interaction that leads to a solution in which both the environmental, the socio-ethical, and the economic benefit come together, as I've been showing in the example that you saw before. And even here, just for your knowledge, method and tools has been developed. Here I present the MSTS methodologies and tools. These are coming from research that the Lens Network has been coordinating, but we are not the only one. There are, of course, even other. So there is a third piece of good news. Wow, how many good news. Well, I have to confess that in this case, we need still to make, so if there is some PhD, young researcher, or even older, even I would like to go on researching about this, we have to work still to consolidate the knowledge, okay? So that when we give this knowledge to the designer, we are more secure that we are never secure about everything, okay? But we are more confident that we are promoting and we are proposing something that help them to design a sustainable and resilient system for all. And here I come to the conclusion by speaking about the role of the higher education institution in design, and I'm looking at my colleague with whom we have been speaking and about this and how to introduce it in every space is possible, or this is at least my position, then the dean will say, but I know that he's in line with this. But now it's bad news again, okay? So to start to say about this, I have to say something. Okay, today the design and the offer of product with a low environmental impact and the design of sustainable distributed product service system is still extremely limited. Is still extremely limited. If not, we would not be in that critical situation that I was defining before. Is really too limited. And I'm sad to say that the design community as a whole, so I'm not speaking about this university and the Federal University of Paraná and other excellent university and so on, and brilliant designer that are knowledge about this, but the design community as a whole is still more part of the problem than part of the solution. And again, I'm looking at my boss, no, at the dean and the head of the department, yes. There is an increasingly important role to be played by them. To do what? Of course, this is clear, to strongly promote research, both the basic research and the applied research, so together with the company, because we don't have yet a designer capable of doing that. So we want to steal the job from the designer, but if they are not able to do that before they are doing that, we have to go even to discuss with the company. So to build a new generation of designer, well equipped for both product design and system design for sustainability. And this is, and here I really come to the conclusion, the reason why the Lens Network started. It was in 2007. It's an open and multipolar network of higher education to diffuse design for sustainability. As Professor Aguinaldo said, now we are nearly 150 universities organized in 25 regional networks, and we have an open ethos. So to shift towards a multipolar, distributed, open access learning by doing knowledge building and knowledge dissemination, okay? This start to be even a common trait, not only in sustainability, even in other things, and I'm very happy and I'm very glad about that. When we started in 2007 or even earlier, that was not really there. So there is a fourth piece of good news. There is the Lens Network as other network, so a worldwide design community that is sharing this ethos, you know, how in so rapid, in such a quick, short time, it was possible to build up that a huge network sharing and so on. And so we have to unify our efforts to be better, to learn from each other, and to be stronger, to build up really this new generation of designer, to be able to envision on the first side, because as designer we are even envisioning a new future and then designing this sustainable society for all. So For all that didn't join the Lens Network, please do it. You are welcome. It's open. And let's do that for a new design hope, for our common future, sustainable for all. Thanks, grazie, obrigado.